6:05, so I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Everett, and I am the Exhibitions and Programs Manager here at the Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining you this evening. There it is. Okay, hi. Now you can see me. So we are hosting tonight's event. It is the third of 6 virtual gallery talks for the exhibition In These Uncertain Times, which is an exhibition that opened several weeks ago, and we are excited to be able to open it up to the public when Santa Cruz gets back into the red tier. And so we'll be sure to update you when that happens. But before we begin tonight's event, I want to go ahead and just start off this evening with a land acknowledgement. And the land on which we gather is the unceded territory of the Awaswas-speaking Yuipi tribe, the Alamusin tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to missions Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonialization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore the traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma. As we are an art and history museum, it's important to acknowledge the spaces that we inhabit and the spaces that we occupy currently. And so we are getting in the practice of doing that regularly. I also want to take a quick minute to thank all of our members, all of our MAH members who are here joining us this evening. Thank you so much for your support. It is because of you that programs like this are possible. And I also just wanted to remind folks of some more upcoming events in addition to these virtual gallery talks continuing for the next several weeks in the same Zoom place, same Zoom time. We do have another event, a virtual family day, coming up on March 13th. So feel free to check out our website for more information on that. And you can always come by the MAH and pick up some of our creativity kits, which are outside in the garden with our outdoor exhibition. It's also on view right now, while we are still temporarily closed. Just so folks know that these events are free for all of our members and our exhibiting artists. And so MAH members as well will be kind of some of the first folks to hear about when we do reopen. So keep an eye out for that happening. And so now we're just gonna go ahead and jump into our program for the evening. If you have joined us before, this is night 3 of a 6-part series talking about In These Uncertain Times. An exhibition that's been organized. I'm going to read a really brief quote from an essay called The Pandemic is a Portal by Anjarashi Roy, which really kind of hit home for thinking about and organizing this exhibition. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world. So this isn't the first global pandemic, and it won't be the last. And COVID-19 serves as a reminder that our lives are always marked by uncertainty. But thankfully, art can give us a space to grieve, process, and heal during these difficult times. And if the pandemic is a portal for imagining a better world, our creativity can provide us with the tools we need to move through it. From memorials and portraits in isolation to artworks providing emotional support for essential workers, this exhibition offers an opportunity to share our collective experience at this moment. Featuring the work of over 60 artists, In These Uncertain Times highlights the creativity and compassion of Santa Cruz County during this global pandemic. The artworks for this exhibition were arranged in several different themes. And while people didn't necessarily submit their work under a particular theme, there were definitely some things that kind of came to the fore in terms of work that was submitted for the show. And for tonight's program, we're going to be talking about abstraction and the role of abstraction in processing and feeling emotions and dealing with complicated subject matter. And so the artworks for tonight really kind of bridge a really interesting kind of scope of abstraction and creative and artistic response to the global pandemic. And so before we actually go into tonight's artworks, we are going to do a participatory activity as part of tonight's program. So I'm going to just encourage folks, if you have access to some scratch paper, or if you find some old receipts or something laying around and you want to go ahead and grab that, and a pencil or a colored pencil or something kind of just laying around. We're going to invite folks to fold that paper in half and then fold it in half again. And in so doing, you're going to kind of create a grid that will look not too dissimilar from what you might see on your Zoom screen. And Emma's going to talk a little bit more about this later on, but if you just want to go ahead and grab some of these materials so that you're prepared for that, we encourage you to grab a pen and a paper, and we'll let you know more about that in just a minute. So without any further hesitation, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Emma Laser, who has been our wonderful coordinator for this program series. So take it away, Emma.
All right, thank you, Everett. So I'm going to start off with a little quote by Adrienne Murray Brown. I think it is a healing behavior to look at something so broken and see possibility and wholeness in it. This global pandemic has opened up a portal to a whole range of emotions. And as we experience the fear and anxiety and isolation of this moment, many of us have turned to art as a way to help us process complex emotions. These artworks use visual languages of shape, color, and form to embrace this unknown. I found a little quote from the Tate Modern to describe what abstraction and art means. And this is definitely more of a quote or looser statement, and isn't necessarily descriptive of all pieces within the abstract frame, but I'm going to share it with you as I found it was quite interesting. Abstract art is art that does not attempt to represent an accurate depiction of visual reality, but instead uses shapes, colors, forms, and gestural marks to achieve its effect. Strictly speaking, the word abstract means to separate or withdraw something from something else. Abstract art is often seen as carrying a moral dimension, in which that can be seen stands for the virtues such as order, purity, simplicity, and spirituality. For example, abstract expressionist artist Kandinsky felt that his work was an alternate pathway to spiritual reality. So this first piece, Meeting, by Lisa Elkstrom, was created in gouache, ink, watercolor, pencil, and crayon on paper. Lisa says, I made this during a meeting of artists via Zoom, just like we are right now. Our conversations ranged from pandemic experiences to our artwork practices and how they were changing. All of this made its way onto the artwork and, to my surprise, mirrored the Zoom screen. Take a look here at all of the gestures and mark making that Lisa was able to evoke here. Each quadrant is a new moment of thought and a new process. I'd love for you all to take a moment and take your piece of paper that you've now split into 4 quadrants. As we're sharing tonight, please use each quadrant of your window to express how you're feeling, what you're learning about, and maybe what you're experiencing tonight. Create marks and gestures and shapes, whatever comes to you in the moment. When one quadrant feels complete or your emotions and thoughts shift, move to the next quadrant. At the end of tonight, you'll have a moment where maybe you could share what you have, what you've produced or not. This is all about you. This next piece by Myra Eastman is acrylic on linen and is titled Gone People Gone and the Nick. Myra says, what a time this is. This is part of an ongoing series that narrates how life under COVID took hold of us and where it has taken us. This piece, I'll Fly Away, is by Beth Shields. The work was created in acrylic and graphite and oil on raw canvas. Beth Shields has been making art all her life and has been part of the art community in Santa Cruz for over 30 years. She has a degree in fine art from UCLA and participates in open studios every year. She also runs Gallery 125 at the Tannery. Beth has joined us tonight and is going to share a little bit more about her work and her practice. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Beth. One moment.
Is it on me, Emma?
It is, yes. Would you like to share your screen, Beth?
Yeah. My screen got really complicated somehow. Okay, great. Let's see if this works. All right. I'm more nervous. I'm more nervous than I usually am when I speak. I'm usually very calm, cool, and collected. But I don't know why I'm feeling really nervous. And I'm going to time myself on my little timer here because I have a tendency to go on. And I know that about myself at this late date in my life. So when I saw the call for art for this, this is what I sent in with the piece to explain the kind of trajectory of this work. Calm down. About 2 months into COVID, I felt an urge to work big, messy, and free. I moved my work practice to a warehouse space and proceeded to work on unstretched raw canvas with acrylic house paint, oil paint, and graphite, and then stretching the pieces. I am making a big mess on the floor and the walls. The excitement I feel in working this way started to heal the depression that was threatening to overtake my life. The title of this piece, I'll Fly Away, speaks to the spiritual sense I have of freeing myself to soar through doing this work. My age also frees me, as there is a point where, as an artist, one seems to be freed to express themselves authentically without concerns for the acceptance of others. I don't know that I'll ever totally get to that point, but it certainly is more powerful now than it was, 40 years ago. And then I said, if not now, when? These uncertain times have a silver lining for me, artistic freedom. So the other thing I just want to say before I start going through these images is that I found this app called Art Rooms. And so I've been putting my work into these virtual rooms, and it's just been a very powerful entertainment for myself during this kind of, isolation. So all the pieces that I show you, almost all of them will then have a corresponding room that I put it into. So here we go. There's this one in a room, and I wanted to be in that room and have that painting hanging over my bed. I'm going to show you a couple pieces that are the work that I've been doing for years. That's very time consuming, and pieces take anywhere from a month to 5 years. And I have to really focus and then walk away and then focus and walk away. So they're very work intensive, and I love doing them Oh, here's a detail on that that shows you this, this amazing graphite crayon that's water soluble that I've been using. It's just a wonderful material. So here's my work that I've been doing for years. This piece is 54 by 72. This piece took me 4 years. Here's another piece that took me, this piece is 48 by 48. It took me probably 2.5 years to finish this piece. There's 20 or 40 to 40 layers of work on each piece. So here's the studio I was working in when COVID hit. This is Open Studio set up in 2019. So of course it doesn't look like this when I'm working. You know, I'm a very messy painter, but I can't work on the walls in this studio because there's really no wall space. It's all windows. And I have these 100-year-old oak floors that I'm constantly obsessing on not getting paint on. So I have to be really careful. So while still in that studio, I had a meltdown. My energy, my working energy had gone way down during the pandemic. I was really depressed every day and didn't have any excitement about painting, which is unusual for me. And it was just getting worse and worse. So I decided to jump off a cliff, and I got this tube of red oil paint out, and I had this big 30 by 40 inch blank canvas, and that's what I did. So I got so excited. I was like, oh, maybe I do get to keep making art. I don't know. So, but I couldn't make a mess in that studio in my house. Everything was too precious. So here's a picture of this in one of those virtual rooms that I'm so excited about. So I started painting in a warehouse. And this is a picture of the warehouse space. As you can see, no, polished oak floors here. And this is what it looked like before the first moment that I tacked this raw canvas. And I've been wanting to work on raw canvas stapled to a wall for years. There just never been any place to do it. And I didn't have enough motivation. So there it is. And then 3 months later, there's the work I did the first 3 months in this space. Here's the first piece I did. And I was so excited. I can't even tell you. I don't know about other artists, but there's certain works you do that you just fall in love with. And others you just kind of go, oh, well, maybe I'm not really an artist. Maybe it's all been a lie. And then every once in a while you do a piece where you go, oh, well then. So now I'm going to zip through these pretty fast here because how much time do I have? Let's see. Anyway, it's gonna beep at 10 minutes. Here's this in a virtual reality. Here's another one that I really like that is messy and was really fun to do. And here it is in this really bizarre environment that I love. I wish I had that really horrible red sofa. And here's a detail just to show you what the work looks like close up. This piece is 42 by 54, good size. Before this all happened, one of the artists in my gallery brought me 4 canvas stretchers with no canvas on them that were 42 by 54. And I didn't know why I wanted them because I didn't imagine that I was going to be doing this. And there they sat, and I went, this is dancing lessons from God, these stretchers, and I don't know where I'm going with it, but this is one of the pieces that ended up on those stretchers. There it is in a nice civilized bedroom. I like this because the color is different and softer. This piece is 40 by 40. There it is in somebody's really upscale New York apartment that doesn't really exist. These 2 pieces are at the Radius Gallery right now. I don't know if you guys know, but instead of doing Open Studio this year, the Arts Council organized something called the Visual Arts Network. And right now at the Radius, the Blitzer, and curated by the Sea are 400 pieces of artwork from the artists who are participating in this Visual Arts Network. And if you go to the Arts Council's website, you can get on there, and there's just amazing work on there. So the radius is at the tannery, so it's right close to where my gallery is. So here's one of those pieces in a virtual reality, and there's the other one. I want this piece in my bathroom. I don't have enough wall space. I love this piece. Sometimes something just happens that's just, I don't know, that just makes me so grateful to be alive and to be making art. Here's what my studio looks like right now. These two big pieces here are the pieces I'm working on. The ones on the end are done, and in fact, they got stretched 2 days ago. This is while they're still on the wall. Here's a picture of a piece that, you know, what it looks like when I'm working on it. And as you can see, I've totally destroyed the walls and the floor. Excuse me. And, you know, the landlord's going to have something to say about it. But, you know, the thing that's nice about working in a space like this is because when you're done and you move out, you just paint the walls and you paint the floor. And it ends up looking better than when you moved in. So this piece is in progress right now. Here's the way I've cropped it at this point. I'm not sure yet. Sometimes I have to do something and then I got to mess around with the cropping to see if I want to make it a 40-inch painting or a 60-inch painting. These pieces of canvas are 5 feet by 5 feet. The ones, you know, back a couple slides ago that were on the wall, and this is one of them. So I have a lot of options of what size stretcher to build and how to crop the piece. And here it is in a, you know, a living room that would never be mine because look how neat and clean it is. Here's another one of those big, this is 60-inch piece of canvas. We're almost done here, guys. There it is in somebody's, you know, high scale office bar. Here's a piece that came out of me perfect. I never touched it again. Such a state of grace that is when that happens. Here it is in somebody's bedroom. Now, I'm almost done, guys. This is the last painting I'm going to show you, but I'm going to show you it in a room, and the buzzer hasn't gone off yet. So I just want to tell you, I've been working on this piece for a month. It has never satisfied me. Can you hear my timer? All right. I have a minute.
Don't worry, you keep going, Beth.
Oh, God. Okay, so I worked on it this morning for 2 hours. I got really excited about it. And then I, you know, cropped it on my iPad, and then I put it in a room. And then I went, I just don't know. So I'm going to have to look at it again in a couple of weeks. For people who make artwork in this kind of abstract way, you know that part of the process is a bliss, a creative bliss. It's like a drug in a way. And its very nature is that while you're doing it, you think it's fabulous. That's part of the process. And I've learned over my lifetime that that is not necessarily the truth. That is just part of that motivation that gets you working. So the last thing I just want to say is that since I started doing this work, my depression has definitely gone down. I can't say it's totally gone because there's just too much going on that is painful to live in and think about people and what they're going through. It's hard to just be cheerful, but at least working is keeping me alive. And thank you for letting me come here and show you guys my work and talk about it. I really appreciate it. Now I have to
so much, Beth.
Stop the share, and then I don't have to do anything else, right?
No, I mean, maybe some folks will have questions for you at the end,
Okay.
which if you do, feel free to pop them in the chat, or if you want to ask them at the end, we can do that. Thank you so much, Beth.
Great.
Really appreciate your vulnerability and sharing your work. And for the record, I get nervous every time I do this. I have to do a little dance in the beginning because there's something weird about the screen. I think it almost dehumanizes it and feels more nervous to me than regular public speaking. So I can completely relate to you with that. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again here. So just bear with me as I switch over to that. Okay, and we're back. So This piece is an acrylic painting by Linda Cover called Out of the Mud Grows the Lotus. Linda says, no work, no exhibits. I thought I would lose my studio and maybe even my life. I started an old image, and over time, that image transformed through desperation to some hope. This next piece, 2020 Reframed by Wendy Siegel, was created in mixed media on canvas. Wendy is a mixed media artist who finds inspiration in our collective history and ancient wisdom. Her intention is to create works of art that become visual connections to something beyond the physical world. In 1993, Wendy began cutting into the canvas surface to create openings or windows within the paintings. These cutouts gave way to uses of raw canvas layers, often inserting her photos within. Now she uses raw canvas to create the structure for her paintings with strings, fringes, frayed edges, and window cutouts. Her recent works combine texts of ancient wisdom, mantras, and prayers, and often displayed in ancient languages. And Wendy is with us tonight, so I'm going to pass over the mic to Wendy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So I guess I'll start by talking about how this painting came to be. At the beginning of 2020, I noticed an overabundance of words that started with RE, like we had to reschedule everything in our lives. We had to revise our plans and reassess our priorities. I personally needed to redirect my creative energies because I love to paint. I love to use a paintbrush on canvas. I could not do that. So I had to redirect my creative energies, and I ended up in the direction of concertina sketchbooks that I had never used before. And I found it fun and interesting, but I wanted to create, I'm so used to using raw canvas and cloth that I wanted to create a book. So I created an 8-page concertina sketchbook, and I needed a theme. So I printed out the words from the all the words that were coming up, the re-words, as I called them. And I filled the book, and well, I'll show you that afterwards while I'm in a little box right now. But the 8-page book wasn't big enough for me, wasn't enough. So I ended up moving to a painting after I was done with the book. There's a picture of a little picture on my screen. I don't know if everyone else has that instead of the painting.
I actually just switched it over so it's you right now. So folks are seeing you. Do you want me to put your piece back up?
Oh, no, this is fine. I'm still in a little box in the corner. I didn't know I was big on everyone else's screen.
You should be. It depends maybe on how folks are viewing the Zoom though.
Okay. But I'm okay. Okay, thanks, Emma. All right, so, well, then if I'm on a big screen, I will show this. You're big on my screen. Okay, so this is the book I created. You could see I put some of the words in it. I'll talk more about those, but this became just an 8-page collection of images and words and threads and cutouts and just totally got me back into my creative flow. But I want to talk about the rewords for a minute and the painting that you that's hanging in the show. So what was happening is we ended up in lockdown or stay at home, and we had to figure out how to remake our lives, and we waited for the world to reopen and for businesses to reopen and to everything to restart. And since then, we've reflected on where we've come and what has happened in the past year. We need to look at what do we have to repair, and how are we going to rethread the tapestry of our lives for the future. So collecting all these words, I printed the words out in different fonts, different size fonts, and sprinkled them all over the canvas of 2020 Reframed. I cut strips of cloth, of the raw canvas cloth, and I cut out holes and spaces, and it became a whole construction project that took me months to put together, sew together, and create. And it was definitely a work of importance for me because it gave me a focus on canvas, which I love, doing what I love, and adding the textures and the strings and the frayed edges. So with that as the introduction to the type of work I do, I thought I'd show you just a couple of pieces. I like to put quotes from ancient wisdom quotes, and I've done a series of small pieces. They're 6 by 6 with the raw canvas and with the quote printed out, as you might be able to see. This one is a quote by Kabir: "The flute of the infinite is played without ceasing, and its sound is love." And this painting, and you could see the strips of raw canvas used, and then I hand stitched them onto a piece of painted canvas, and then attach it to the stretched canvas. And what I've been doing since, because this year has been very difficult or different, working differently was the norm. And I started doing morning meditation paintings, just little quick for me as a meditation on paper. And I'll just quickly show you. I love, even on the paper, I love stitching. And these are just very, very simple designs done in the morning with meditative music, especially later in the year after the election when things felt pretty tense. Doing a series of these just gave me a lot of solace. And I'll show you one more. Well, maybe 2 more. So I've definitely worked less on canvas this past year than normal for me, but I've done work that I could feel good about, even in the midst of things changing, and I don't know where it's going, and I don't know what the result of working this year will be, but anyway, you can move on.
Thank you,
I'm
Wendy.
good, Emma.
Thank you. I really love that idea of just taking some time out of each morning and doing that meditative practice with it's meditative for the mind and for the creative soul as well in many ways.
It also
really
affected
beautiful.
me for hours each. And I kept
sure.
the palette very, very minimal. I kept three colors that I would start with, and then I would just add a little bit.
A great idea.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I also really love the, I don't know, the cutouts in your pieces reminded me of the portals that Everett was talking about a little earlier, this kind of idea that the pandemic is a portal. And I just, it's very interesting to see all of these synchronicities.
I also thought that all the loose threads, to me, represent a time, a time in which our personal and societal threads have been laid bare.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay. This piece is by Jeff Allen West, and it's called Talking Speechless in acrylic. Jeff says, if one stays open to the possibility, it's interesting to see what develops. This work reflects the time in which I made it. It is a state of mind and a personal artifact. This next piece, Riri's Bike, Scarlet and Ultramarine by Joshua Morano, is a colored pencil on paper work that, as he describes, I began to closely observe the changing qualities of light, drawing a new series tracing shadows. I'll let him talk a little bit more about what that means in a moment as he's joined us tonight, but a little bit about Joshua. He was born and raised in Watsonville, California, and earned his BFA at the University of California, San Diego, where he studied with an emphasis in sculpture and installation. Since 2012, he has been working in art education, teaching courses in studio art history, and filmmaking. Presently, Joshua is a graduate student at Stanford University, pursuing an MFA in art practice. He's here tonight, so I'm going to pass the torch over to Joshua, and I will stop sharing so that he can share.
Hi.
Ready, Joshua?
I think so. Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Can you see this?
Almost. Now we can.
Okay, cool. All right, well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Joshua, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist. In my practice, I'm interested in exploring the overlapping relationship between the natural and human-made environment and look for patterns and systems of efficiency that exist within both. I'm especially interested in working with naturally generated phenomena that happen within the context of daily life, which is actually what I'm doing here in this drawing. So this is part of a series that I started while I was at my grandmother's house during the beginning of the implementations of shelter in place that started back in like April. And for these drawings, I would continually trace the silhouettes of various objects that I saw at my grandmother's home. And in this instance, it is my cousin Rihanna's bike. We call her Riri. And I'm going to show you just like a few detail shots, but you could see here on the image on the left, I have these timestamps, and even more closely, what I do is I wait for a shadow to surface on the edge of a sheet of paper, and then I quickly trace that shadow of an object, and then I write down the time, and I repeat that process until the sun completely just shifts off the page. So typically around sunset. So here's some images of the process. The image on the left is when I started, and then on the right. So this would be day one. And then the following day, so this was in Scarlet. The following day, I traced my cousin's bike again, however, with ultramarine. And I just layered it on top of it. And this is actually kind of a one-off in that even though this is part of an ongoing series of drawings, this is actually the only drawing that I've made, well, completed at least, that is in color. Color is something that I'm really challenged with. So I try to just work with graphite. So it's kind of this thing that I'm learning to do at the moment is mixing color. This is actually more of what my drawings look like. Actually, most of my drawings look like. I work with just regular graphite pencils, and this is part of the same series. These are called sun shifts, and these were all done at my Lola's house, and Lola means grandma in Tagalog. And this is just an installation shot in my studio at Stanford. And I think for these drawings, doing this process when we were in shelter in place, I, like many of us, had a lot more free time. And I think because I was living at my Lola's house, especially because where we live in Watsonville, it's sort of out in the sticks. I live in this community called Royal Oaks. So we're already kind of isolated, and like I don't have a TV. So I just kind of had to occupy my time with lots of other things. And I think that with that said, I began to notice things a lot more closely, especially things that maybe are more fleeting and ephemeral, things that are often overlooked, like the way that the silhouettes of objects might create shadows on different surfaces, both interiorly or in exterior parts of where we live. This is another drawing. This is called Nopales, and Nopales is a cactus that my family likes to cook and eat. I'm half Mexican and I'm half Filipino, so on my Mexican side, this is something that we it's something that we grow a lot in our front or backyards. And I made this on 5/25/2020, and in the titles, I just put what the object is that I'm tracing, the date, and then the time frame in which I began the tracing. So the first mark was done at 1:44 p.m. and then it ended at 5:07 p.m. And what I think is really interesting is that depending on the object that I'm tracing, it could lend to a composition that's maybe more organic and gestural. Another component too, beyond just like the direct sunlight, that I have to consider is the weather. So if it's partly cloudy or very cloudy, sometimes my lines get sort of impressionistic because the lines aren't very clear for me to trace. So you can see here the materials that I use. This is the slide of the Nopales. Here's my clock. Here's my electronic sharpener. I actually just got an electronic sharpener for this project, and it's like a total game changer because I used to just manually sharpen all my pencils. Now I don't think I could ever go back. And then another drawing that I did is this piece called Outdoor Furniture Set. And for this, I was really kind of fascinated by how mechanized the final product looks, almost as if it was produced by a machine. And that is something that I think a lot about because in a lot of my work, I do things repeatedly, and it's something that is also mirrored in the sort of work that my family did working in agriculture. And this is the most recent project that I've done actually, and this is in San Diego, and this is at a place called Ice Gallery. And Ice Gallery is run by this other artist named Michael Armstrong, who is the assistant of an artist that I really love and admire named Robert Irwin, who is an artist associated with the light and space movement. And Michael, when he approached me to show at this site, told me that one of the parameters that he expects is that when using the space, that I consider the space itself, that the work is site conditional. So I wanted to continue these sorts of drawings. One of the challenges, but also something that was a wonderful thing at the same time, was that I didn't have a lot of direct sunlight to work with because I was working within an interior space and my light source were these windows here. So there's two of these windows with these archways, and the windows are facing more northeast specifically. So I didn't get a lot of direct sunlight except for during sunrise, where you could see where I'd get the silhouettes of the windows here. However, kind of just by chance and wonderfully, I would get a lot of projections from different reflective surfaces that were outside of the windows, specifically the bumpers of cars or the windows of the architecture across the street. Early in the morning, especially during sunrise, there was this black Ford that would park right next to this window in the front. And because of that black Ford, I was able to get all of these wonderful reflections up on the ceiling and up here on the top part of the walls. And here are just some details. And then here are some images with some of the reflections. So this is close to sunrise. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I really love the way that you've been able to almost create these three-dimensional sculptures using lines and a very 2D object of a shadow. It's really, really very, very moving and cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Sorry, I'm just gonna share my screen one more time here. Okay, here we are. So, And We're Back by Jess Wadehofer is an acrylic on cardboard piece. Jess says, made within a week of returning home from the evacuations caused by the CZU lightning complex. Already within a pandemic, it was a fever dream to be evacuated. You almost forgot about the other disasters around you. So echoing our exhibit in these uncertain times at the MAH, the Cessnon Underground at UC Santa Cruz has a current exhibition called At the Present Moment, and the fantastic curator is here with us tonight, Edie. So I would love to turn over the mic to Edie to talk a little bit about this exhibition, and then there's a couple of artists from that show here with us tonight as well. Edie, are you here? Hello.
Hello. Hi, like Emma said, my name is Edie Troutwine. I use she, her pronouns. Currently, I'm the Chancellor's undergraduate intern for the Cessnon Gallery, and I'm the curator for the Cessnon Underground's student exhibition At the Present Moment. The exhibition is comprised of 78 distinct pieces made by UCSC students during the pandemic, and it brought together over 40 artists and media ranging from painting, sculpture, sound, video, book arts, and more. As an artist myself, I've been continually inspired by the creativity of my fellow students, and I was grateful that so many of my peers were willing to participate and share their work with us. And I'm equally grateful to the MAH for being willing to collaborate with the students and showcase the work in their space. So I'm really thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be sharing my fellow students' artwork with all of you.
Okay. So thanks, Edie. Emmeline, since you are here, would you like to share a little bit about your piece? Are you still here?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hey.
Hear me? Hi. Yeah, I am honestly, don't really have words for this piece. I have to say it came by accident, or rather just in between other things. Like I'm not really sure where it came from. But I think a lot of the other speakers tonight have kind of touched on that idea where the pandemic kind of gave a lot of time to just do God knows what. And I picked up oil paints, which I'd never done before in my life. And I have this book that my grandmother gave me. It was like Women Artists and the Surrealist Movement. And I kept reading it or flipping through it. And there was this one kind of theme of just like circles and like egg shapes and kind of things like that. And I don't know, I just started moving paint around on a canvas. And I'm still, again, not really sure what it means. This is kind of, I think in retrospect, a little bit about balance of time, and I don't know, just trying to make sense of things that are floating around in space. But I really love this painting. I don't know where it came from. And right now it's on the wall in my sister's apartment in Silver Lake. And I think it just brings me a lot of joy to kind of know that came out of me. I'd never really painted anything before, but I was just, it was during kind of the right before the fires had happened, and I remember the sky was all orange and just the light in my room was really strange and abstract, and I just had no structure to anything and everything was just kind of floating around. So I think that's where it came from. And these are just objects in my room, and that's my hand and some flour that I found. I feel like very inarticulate in comparison with a lot of these other artists, but I am flattered that this was chosen to be a part of this series. I think it kind of goes in conjunction with another painting that I did later in the year, which is kind of a little bit in the same vein of like furniture and body parts and things that are just floating around. And again, I think I've just been thinking a lot about trying to balance things on top of other things this year when we don't have a lot of outlets to kind of put them upon, you know. So I'm really appreciative to Edie and to all of you guys for listening. And I guess that's where it comes from.
Thank you. I actually completely relate with this emotion. And especially given that we are in this virtual world all the time, I feel like this is how my mind feels often, floating through space and time and not really ever sure what day it is or which way is up or down anymore. This is what this reminds me of in this moment. So I can definitely relate.
Exactly.
All right. And then we have Ignatius Lindy here with his piece, Seeking.
Hi there. My name is Ignatius Lindy. I'm an art major at UC Santa Cruz and an aspiring abstract painter. Painting has been my method of expressing emotions and experiences throughout the quarantine and COVID and all of this. I'm not able to articulate emotions well, so I have a tendency to suppress strong emotions when I feel them, which I think comes from a fear of vulnerability. So painting has been a powerful tool for me to engage with how I'm feeling, to confront traumas and to relate to the world. When I'm painting, I try to let go and discover my emotions in the painting. And I hope that by doing so, I can connect with something that's real for me and hopefully for the people that see my work. Yeah. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen and see my artwork. This painting, Seeking, was made when I was sort of doubting my worth, and I was unsure of whether all the time that I was spending making art was sort of worth doing and was meaningful. And so in the process of making it, I started to sort of just like look for different aspects of myself and different emotions that I was feeling, to try to ground myself and yeah. And so I don't know, I think this piece makes me feel sort of, I feel sort of worthy of being myself when I look at this piece, because it was sort of inspired by that doubt and that unsureness that I was feeling. Yeah, thank you guys for listening and looking at my art.
Thank you for sharing tonight. That was very powerful, and I appreciate you opening up with us a little bit more about this work and your process. I think that it would be, first of all, before I go into perhaps a Q&A, I just want to thank all of the artists tonight for being here with us, for sharing your work and your practice and your own vulnerabilities with us too. I think a lot of times, well, always our work is a reflective of ourselves. And so it takes a lot of courage, especially in the Zoom environment, to put it out there. And thank you so much for being here with us. We are at 7 o'clock, but I do want to have some time for Q&A. So if anyone would like to stay on for a little bit longer to do that, we can. And also, if anyone did do the art activity tonight and would like to perhaps share some of the windows into your world, we would love to see if you would like to share anyways.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you to all the artists who presented tonight. With that, I can definitely say as an arts administrator and not an artist myself, I'm not an illustrator and I do not do artwork traditionally, but I will share with you what I drew during this time. Just to break the ice a little bit, doodle. But if anybody else wanted to share some of what they were processing during the event tonight, or if they drew anything else or had any questions for the artist, now is a great time to do that. So we've got a few more minutes for that.
Hello. I did some doodles.
Oh, Eveline.
I did them during Beth's and Wendy's presentation. This was very much inspired by Beth and by Wendy. Like, think there's like a needle and thread in one of them and lots of scribbles and lines. That was a really wonderful talk by both of those two artists. I don't even know if they're still here, but that was really moving to see. I don't know, just to know that I think there's like a certain energy that I connected with for sure, with both of them and their art. And so this came of that. I think that was kind of a fun practice. I might do that during class.
Thank you. Does anyone else have one they would like to share?
I did one. Just a little doodle. I don't know if you can see it. It's a bit, I don't know, just sort of playing around.
Does anyone have any shares or comments or questions? We have some wonderful comments in the chat if you haven't had a chance to read them yet. Doesn't look like any questions yet though, and that's okay too.
It looks like we've got a share from Melissa.
Oh,
My bad, I was muted.
Melissa, do you want to talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, I had my pastels near me. I had never done abstract with pastels, so this was a fun exercise, and I was just kind of going between squares as the different people were talking. I was really inspired by the line drawing of the shadows over here in the window in the room, but really I was just really going with what I feel. I feel like I'm not being very articulate, but wanted to participate. Here we are.
thank you, Melissa.
That's great. Thank you. Well, so if you think of anything else, feel free to follow up with us at a later time. And we will be hosting episode 4 or part 4 of this virtual gallery talk this Friday. So same Zoom place, same Zoom time. And make sure you go ahead and register through our website for your stories and your work and your practice with us. It's just really beautiful to see some of the background behind all of that. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. And thank you again, Emma, for making all of this possible, and to all of our mom members. You make all of this move. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.